everyone. So, this is another episode of Sit with Aksa, where I highlight the silent giants and people who have quietly made a difference either in their lives or just around there as a community. And like before, I've always started with highlighting that the world, where the world is going right now. Still, right now, we are facing like a lot of issues when it comes to Palestine, when it comes to Sudan, Congo, and all the Muslims who are being forced to live in conditions that are not humane in any circumstances. So, of course, right now, everyone is doing whatever they can when it comes to just a sharing button or donating. And so, just do whatever you can and even if that means raising your voice, just do that. And that would mean a lot of difference. Maybe not right now, but in the future, but every person speaking out would make a difference. And now, moving on to the guest of honor, who I have been known for more than 10 years. Like, just thinking about it feels like, oh my God, 10. How are you, Sad? How is it going? I've already asked you. We're going to ask you again for this.
I'm good. And we have not known each other for 10 years. I'm
More
sure we have
than.
known each other for more than 10 years.
Yeah, more
I
than.
think we were also together in O levels, so I
Yeah,
think
O
कोई
levels
15
was
साल हो गए
2014, right? No,
2014
12.
नहीं
So
2012
12, right? Oh my
2012
God. I was like, I was counting, then
13
I was like,
14
random. Matlab, more than 10 years, that's it. 15,
uh,
damn. Like, damn, that's a lot. And this is going to sound so weird, but even before like getting on the podcast, I went to YouTube. I logged into all of my profiles and tried searching for that Saad's magic video. But मुझे नहीं मिली. I couldn't find it. But I know that he
that's
was
good.
होता correct, 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 correct. That's it. That's I know.
You
So
still
is
remember,
that
damn.
of course I do. Of course, like that's imprinted all of our minds. Like, has it followed you over here, like IBA maybe, and also in lungs? Yeah,
I,
that's just
I
a
had
cool thing.
I had completely forgotten about it. Like मैंने बहुत टाइम से देखी नहीं है. अभी तुमने मुझे याद दिलाया है. मे बी मैं
I
इस
don't-
पॉडकास्ट के बाद देखूंगा
They
इनको फिर से.
salam ya pen. No, I'm going to do that. No, I'm going to do that. So, so before we dive in, I'm just going to give you background of Saad. And Saad did his schooling in Hyderabad from Beacon House, including O levels and A levels both. And then, of course, like we both lived in Hyderabad, and then for universities, we moved to Karachi. And at IBA, we did our bachelor's, and now he's doing his master's in Lahore, Lungs. And now, let's just see when it comes to Lahore, how is he setting an example there? He's on Dean Goner's list. And then he has a GPA of 3.8. I know a lot of people say GPA doesn't matter, and it doesn't, but this deserves the highlight. And he's doing his master's in business administration, and his bachelor's was in business administration as well. When it comes to his work experience, he it's revolved around it, I would say, being a strategist. And so, as in Colgate Palmolive, he was a brand turnaround strategist, where he successfully identified brand decline drivers and prepared a four-pillar roadmap for senior leadership. And moreover, he has been a project manager as High Tech Pipe and executed a pilot project of solar pumps that drive 38% sales lift. Of course, numbers are important. I had to. And then implement a pipeline level dashboard, increasing deal closures speed by 25%, and the walkway school work, where he worked on building this strategy that was focused on uh, parents who were not sending their children to school, right? So he worked on that. So before I move in to more of like Lums and you co-founding a consulting firm. So your work experience has more been about community work. So is that also based on your passion? Because I never saw you as that kind of person, because I love doing community and I do whatever I can. So how did that came about?
So, like, I have always been aware of my privilege, that coming from a family that can could afford most of the wants that they have, and seeing around the country, the city that I lived in, there was lot more people who were not able to meet their basic necessities, even they did not know their
Okay.
basic necessities. So I have always been like interacting always with people from a different background, from a class which is lower than I what my parents or my family provided. So what
Yeah.
I realized was that there is a lot of talent in them, and which was
Yeah.
being wasted. So and therefore after graduation, I felt some responsibility on me to work on this, and I had a friend who had recently started a non-profit organization which was aiming to provide education to a certain area where there was no concept of education. Like parents did not even know the importance of education, what education entails. So I really liked his idea. So me and my sister both, we started working with him, and I started it right after graduation, and that year was the COVID year. So we started didn't want to delay anything. We started there, and we opened a couple of schools,
You did?
and
That's amazing.
in Third
Oh,
Parker. And apart from that, so I worked there for almost a year, and then I gave I gave up my mantle to some other person to start pursuing my CSS exam. So I wanted to do something on a bigger scale, on a larger scale.
yeah, yeah.
So therefore I started my journey for CSS. Although I was preparing for CSS exam before that, but I felt like I had to drill down
Give
and
it full
focus on the
time.
CSS exam much more.
Yeah.
And then I spent a year for my CSS exam, learned a lot of stuff there, and understood what it really entails to help people, and how it can be done. So that few years where I gave my CS exams was very productive. I got to learn about a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and it
I'm
had
really
like
sorry.
I had a major impact on my worldview. Right after that, I also realized that there is a lot of potential, a lot of work that can be done uh, in the uh, in the corporate side, which can help people as well. So like the businesses also have some way that they can help people. So what I did was I wanted to work in a place where actual impact was being made. So
Yeah.
previously, so like while building schools, while preparing for CSS, what I realized was that even if you provide someone the ability to have clean drinking water or proper sewage, it goes a long way. So what I
Yeah.
did was start working for a pipe manufacturing company. It was high tech. I worked there for 2 years. I worked there in multiple departments. But mainly my work was for strategy. I worked for their sales side and their procurement side, and also the implementation side. Therein, I also got to learn a lot about from the upper management how to conduct a business and how to make decisions through data. It was very productive. And while working there for a few years, and then I realized that my career progression needs a more booster, and therefore decided to do my MBA. And right now I'm done with my
Almost done.
years being
Yeah,
passed.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
why was the reason you didn't take the normal corporate route and you went into like helping people and that route? Because for me, even though I had always took that corporate route because that was so ingrained in us, right? So, but then again, I think I always felt that something was missing. So, what was going on in your head? Like, was it just CSS, or you just being very perspective even when growing up?
So I always knew that I want to work in a place. I want to have an impact which does not only have an impact on my family or on myself, but an impact that is for the greater good. So I
Yeah,
was very clear about that. And I would say that that COVID year also helped me in the sense that to give me that nudge, in the sense that in that year most of us were like inside our homes, inside our
yeah,
houses, and
yeah.
had like no, not enough job opportunities. So what I did was, instead of staying at home, I ventured into this, and while working there I really liked it. And so this came naturally to me. But I always knew, because I was set on also doing my CSS even before my graduation. So I knew I had to work for the public, in the sense that I need to have an impact which is greater than to my family or myself only.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. One more thing, like I've always like known you as a very reserved person, even when at the
Yeah.
school, O levels, A levels, right? But right now at Rams, you are a co-founder at Consulting Club, and consulting definitely brings, there's nothing reserved per se in that. So how did that came about? Like that personality change, I can relate to that a lot. But let's just talk about you in that sense.
I think my like I truly flowered I became more open was in my university, when I got to live in a hostel, in
Yeah,
IB's boys hostel.
yeah,
So at that time, I before that I had a very pampered type of life. But after that, when I was living alone with around 100, 200 people,
yeah,
interacting with, eating with them, like all the time, having fun. In that
yeah,
moment, I felt a lot safe around people. Previously, I felt
yeah,
previously it was not uh safeness per se, but it was like I did not feel comfortable to open up. But after living with so many people and making so many friends from of different type,
yeah,
I was able to accept my own uniqueness and then make that apparent to the people around me. In that sense, in that way, I made a lot of friends, which encouraged me even further.
yeah,
Uh, so I think my experience at the IB Boys Hostel was the main triggering point. But after that, I think
yeah,
working, leading some people, and then seeing that you can make so much impact, and then also my CSS exam also gave me so many ideas, so many and also clarified what I really want and what really how society works. So the amalgamation of all of these experiences
yeah, yeah,
made me
yeah.
confident enough to be more open.
To be honest, like I could relate to because I lived at the hostel at that time, and
Yeah,
even though my first 2 years was just me figuring out, going through mental struggles and all,
yeah,
I still think it was such a pinnacle point. And for some reason, like I've noted that down because the way you said that you felt safe, but then again, that's the point. You kind of like we kind of felt safe with strangers, but not with the people we have been living and known for years, right? And that's so important because I think that when you are in your journey and when you are moving and when you are not trying to have friends, because there's a perception that okay, we have to go through and we have this destination, and then you find the people who just accept you the way you are. it just builds your confidence even more. And it's like it's as shocking as we can say because it's strangers who is making us say. But that's somewhat true. Like for me as well, I never knew I could like start a podcast was like a no. Like I couldn't even go down that route. But I wasn't even able to do like properly stand up in front of the class and give a presentation or something per se. But just that experience, although it was full of struggles, but I think that if I had to take that out, then I wouldn't be the person I am today. So yeah, that's like so true. And again, so of course you're living in Lahore right now, right? So first you moved into Karachi. That was hostel, and that was the pinnacle point, right? So how both of them are different. I know in terms of being close to family, like Karachi, Hyderabad is just 2 hours, right? But Lahore, I'm sure, is like a much difficult route. But was that a better decision for you?
So like, are you asking me if like going to LUMS was a good decision instead of going to IBA for my MBA?
No. I'm
Or I was not
asking
able to
like,
understand.
no. Look, so I'm asking like, for example, in Karachi and Lahore, Karachi, where of course you can just meet your parents after a week and everything. But in Lahore, you have more time
Mm.
to yourself, right? The whole semester,
Yeah,
you cannot all back, right? And then for that
yeah,
whole time, you have to figure out everything on your own, take care of yourself
yeah.
emotionally, mentally, and every way and with no
Mhm.
family support just to be on the call. So even though it looks hard, like on paper, was that really hard for you? Or was that a really a much better decision because you were able to explore yourself?
Oh, okay, I understand your question. So I'd say the exploring part of the hostel life I did in my IBA. So in
Yeah,
LUMS hostel, there was not a lot of exploring that I was doing.
yeah,
And I think at this age, when you are comfortable enough to be alone, independent, I feel that like staying away from my family for like couple of months, I did not have any problem as such. I feel in the sense, I feel it allowed me the time and the space to prepare and study even harder, which I might have not been doing in IBA. So in that sense, I was able to like re-explore, rediscover my academically uh, sound person, that because in IB I did not study that much, but but in O levels, A levels, I did study a
of
lot.
course, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so LUMS gave me that time. Living in the hostel gave me, and staying away from my family gave me that time and space to restart that journey of exploring and studying and falling in love with academics all over again. So
Right.
that there was that.
Yeah, so was like academics always like your comfort zone in a way that when you were in O and A levels? For me, it was more like pressure to study, so I cannot even go back to studying, right? So for you, was it like okay, a comfort zone, like you like studying? So IBA was like okay, you're being a bit far away from who you are, but in Lahore, Lums, you kind of found yourself again.
So like I from childhood I was always good at mathematics, and I felt it was my calling. Uh, and I also fell in love with economics when I first studied
Yeah,
economics.
yeah.
So these two subjects I've always was interested in these. So naturally, mathematics and economics, you naturally also really like analytics and finance. So I was also like interested in that as well. So when
Hmm.
I used to study these things, I used to study it for my own self because I used to enjoy it. And if you see my
Uh,
transcript in IBA, and like I also gave my CFA, that I used to get A's in finance and IB. I did not get used to get I used to get C's and F's in other courses, but in finance I used to get A's. And I think for me, studying was about learning new things and
Yeah,
applying those things to my external world was something that motivated me a lot. And
yeah.
I always looked at studies like that, and CSS. I also looked at CSS like that, and therefore I enjoyed a lot because I know a lot of people who like give up after a year or so. But I did not. I gave all of my attempts, and I
Yeah,
used to study a lot. And
yeah.
the reason why I was able to do it because I really, really enjoyed learning about
Studying.
new ideas, new
Yeah,
concepts.
that's
Yeah, I enjoy
that's good.
studying.
That's good. And like when you were talking about that, like I don't know, I think couple of years ago, I've had a conversation with one of our mutuals, Hamid, right? And we
Mm.
were just sitting at a cafe, and we were with all our extended friends, others as well, and we both got to talking, and like he shared with me what he is actually doing. Like he's a research analyst at IBA, but he is
Mm.
in collaboration with the government, and what you talked about, like building that educational communities. I don't know when you mentioned that friend that was Hamir or not, but that building that educational communities and all, and how bringing that change, everything. So I completely get it what you're coming from, because I'm able to relate to it, but the only part not relatable is the academics, because I think that for me, it's more about just being in the field and doing and not learning. So what you said about learning, that was never my perspective, because for me, I think even in my household, it was always like comparison with cousins, because we lived in a joint family. So how much percentage you got, how much percentage other person got. So it was always that pressure. So right now, even though I have been involved with community work and I've been associated with organizations and doing anything and everything on my own, academics is something I can't relate to. Although this one time I did started like learning Arabic to just learn about Quran even more, and that was something I did for myself. So yeah, that learning for me stays. So yeah. So
Yeah, I
one
think
more. Yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah.
go on, go on, go on, go on. No, no, no,
So
go on.
I think it's what you like, you need to discover that first. So like I would not enjoy studying maybe about HR as such, but maybe like if I find like I like to understand about the world. So like economics and finance helps me understand the financial aspect to it. Sociology helps me understand the society, psychology, the
Yeah,
individual,
yeah. I think it's all
philosophy,
about the
history.
perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, I think yeah, I think it also the reason why I was like always interested in this is because I had friends who had also like had a lot of I also shared the same interest. So
Um,
when we had such conversations, it was always fun. So maybe
yeah,
that was also encouragement that like
yeah,
allowed
of
me to
course.
yeah,
Yeah, I think this, let's move on to the next question I want to ask. So, of course, like when it comes to your perspective, you are more about how to make a change in the community. And even like, I think you share a similar perspective with the friend I was talking about, Hamir, because he was also not wanting to, as in, settle abroad, because he wanted to make a change with the country he is in and the opportunities he see around. So is that the reason why you chose like not moving to abroad, but like staying over here? And even if it means masters doing from a university in Pakistan, just staying here so that you can make a difference?
So I'm very bullish, very optimistic about Pakistan. So I feel the next 20, 30 years of Pakistan would be very different from what Pakistan is right now. And so what we learn in finance is that there is that if you put in your like money in the market in the start, you will be there when when the market rises, and you will have the entire
Yeah,
uh, profit
I
of it.
get.
So I
Yeah.
believe in Pakistan and feel Pakistan's uh, uptrend would start soon, and I want to be there when it does, and I want to be one of those agents of change which brings that uptrend. So I think there's a lot that can be done in Pakistan, and if I go abroad,
Yeah.
I would just be like part of that part of that same process that everyone else is doing. But over here, I can make a lot of impact. So that's why I want to stay here.
Makes sense, makes sense. So even like right now when you are over there living, so right now, like what's your perspective like right now, are you just focused on studies? Yeah, but you are also like, even though if it's business administration, you are working on other things as well, like that's in the pipeline when it comes to bringing a change in community.
So recently, I'm in my last semester, so we have to do a consultancy project. So we are doing a consultancy project with a big giant, with Easy Pesa. So what we're trying to bring in digital inclusion in those type of businesses which have been always outside of the ambit of the formal economy, and therefore a lot of fraud and scams and a lot of tax evasion was being done, and therefore a lot of funds which might have been mobilized for helping the poor were not being mobilized. And so I'm working with Easy Pesa on that, and we're trying to bring these small and medium enterprises into the ambit of the formal economy through providing them digital platform such as the Easy Paisa that we use. That is only
Yeah.
for consumers, but we're trying to build something which is for the businesses as well. So I'm working on that per se in the semester to come.
Okay, so when it like, of course it's your like semester work, but when you say it's more for B2B as well, right now even when it comes
Mhm.
to businesses, Easy Pesa does that, for example, if there is a matter of transactions, because even for people, if they want to transfer amount, yeah, bank transfer is
Yeah.
there, but it's more about if you have Easy Pesa or like Just Cash. So, are you talking about that thing, or there are other medium enterprises that you are talking about, for example, in like a very far away, secluded communities that have businesses but they don't have access. So you want to provide them that benefit.
No, so basically we will be providing those businesses which have some footprint, which are making some good money. Some, like for example, some textile manufacturing, maybe a surgical manufacturing plant, or maybe a distributor, a big distributor, or medium-sized distributor. So
Yeah.
they are using Easy Paisa, but for making payments, or maybe making
Yeah.
some low level transaction. So recently what has happened in Easy is that they have recently got a license for being a digital bank, so they can have the same tools and same features that all banks have. So they can have checkbooks, they can have saving accounts, current accounts. So we're trying to move, like enter into a digital landscape where these small and medium enterprises, which might have not been previously using the services of banks, can be utilized here. So one example that I can give is that maybe if a manufacturing plant wants to pay its employees, and it's around 100 people, and does not want to give cash or does not want to give checks because employees do not have that checkbooks or bank accounts,
Yeah.
so maybe
Yeah.
they can use Easy as a payroll to pay their employees through Easy Paisa. There's some one example of how such tools can be used for such small and medium enterprises.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like, even if right now, even if I think about, okay, like bank account and these things have made so easy that you can easily transfer money. But even like where I'm living right now, I have flatmates, and one of them shared with me that they get their money like in an envelope, right? So I do think even
Yeah,
though
yeah.
economy and the world is moving towards like betterment, I think in Pakistan, I've always found that people being way too rigid to a change, because for them, change is something like too big or too Western or too, I don't know, weird. So have you like of course you have been in that arena for quite some time. Do you think that people are way too rigid and we kind of people who wants to bring a change have to like break down into really short and simple steps so for them it's not too overwhelming?
Yeah, I think uh, the change management philosophy it in itself is very complex, and make we can't bring change unless the people at the grassroots level also accept the change. So we have to make it as simple and as easy for them to accept that change. And I do believe it's our responsibility to make it as accessible as we can. And
Yeah.
maybe and Easy Pesa is exactly doing that. So it's basically so around, I think 40% of the economy is in the informal sector, and most of the people uh, do a lot of people do not have bank accounts, and especially women. So
Yes.
we and so bank accounts are the methods where businesses engage with these people. They can either do it with bank accounts or either through like cash. So cash brings a lot of problems with itself, but
Yeah.
we're trying to provide a third avenue such as easy pesa, which can be used to communicate with, where businesses can deal with these people, and maybe in the process also lead to economic development in the like grassroots level.
Yeah. Uh, I'm just diving in because that's like part of my interest. So just one last thing. Like you said, right, about women not have a lot of digital banking and stuff like that. But don't you think even before bringing about that digital banking and giving that platform, there is some sort of a mindset shift that needs to happen before them even accepting like even bank changes because that's somewhat an empowerment, women empowerment kind of route with a lot of like women in the secluded area vicinities are not familiar with, and so is that like backed by mind shift as well?
Yeah, so that's a very good point. So right now, what EasyPesa, JazzCash, and all of the other digital platforms are doing is they're trying to penetrate these spaces through a bottom-up approach. They're trying to educate people and then trying to
Okay, that's
create demand from them. But what our vision is to create demand through a top-down method. So what will happen is when these people who are working with these companies will have to have a digital account, that necessity will create the demand and they will learn in that process. So EasyPesa will do is they will have a bottom approach to target and educate these people and also make that mind shift, but also
okay,
a top
okay,
down approach
okay.
where they will feel the need to also move there.
Okay, okay. So like Easy Paisa is doing bottom up the educating and you are doing top down in a way that when the education is there and people feel that need, so the
Mhm.
only thing that's available for them is like Easy Paisa. So like a
Mhm.
positioning company in that way. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's really good. Okay. So now I'm going to be moving towards your CSS journey. And
Okay.
although like I started my failing forward like section over here because I think in our society growing up, failing is always seen as you not being worth it. And I think the amount of things I have learned from failures and starting a business, working, going crazy for a McKinsey test, like getting a position over there. So it was hard, but right now in hindsight, of course, it was a blessing in disguise. So how was that three attempts or CSS for you?
So at the time when I was giving that exam, I used to also enjoy, but also get frustrated because it was a very long journey. For example, if you have to wait entire year to give the exam again, but in
Yeah.
that year you have to study, and there is no no set exam pattern or no exam schedule, no
Yeah, yeah,
syllabus. So you have to study everything that you can get your hands on. So
yeah,
at that moment you feel कि यार इतना मैंने पढ़ लिया है, maybe I'm set, but maybe the next year you find a question which was not being covered in all of
yeah,
your years
yeah,
preparation. So it was frustrating, um, but I think that ambiguous and that abstract nature of the syllabus also is very good in the sense that it allowed me to learn in a very different way. And because I was used to learning through a structured method, like in schools and in
yeah, yeah,
university,
yeah,
but this was very unstructured method. So what we used to do, we used to have textbooks which would give some foundation to that structure, but like CS's allowed me to learn in a way that I could create my own mind map and then put ideas in it and then connect those ideas with other ideas and then that creating a net of
yeah, that's
ideas. And
amazing. Yeah,
it was very fun in the sense, and then applying the, because CSA also requires you to apply those ideas. So it was a lot of fun in that sense. And I like I got to study things that I'm sure I would not have done, like
yeah,
uh, without, or like
yeah,
if I did
yeah,
not have
yeah,
the incentive. So I
yeah.
had to study psychology and like stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's like for example, in hindsight, when we look at those, we find there's like those important pearls that we treasure forever. But I like while you are amidst that, like going through, I know that we all were coming out of IVS. It was always like corporate world. We have to earn and stuff like that. So while you were going through it, was the mindset still, okay, I'm learning, okay, I'm connecting the dots and everything, but it was more based on pressure, like I have to get this done so I can move my pedestal, so I can be in the race because I'm just, just so far behind.
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you're trying to say because all of my batchmates, I feel
Yeah,
a couple of people like with were with me, but most of our batchmates were had started their journey for corporate,
yeah,
and I thought I will be able to clear my exam, not if not in the first attempt, then the second attempt, but that got delayed, and like I had prepared for the CS exam for 4 years. So in that sense, I did feel that I am lagging behind at last at the in the last years. It was very frustrating, and it did feel that maybe I would remain behind, but I always, like, I had people around me, my cousins, my friends who I used to talk to. They used to tell me that you can easily make up with the difference that you
yeah,
have done while preparing for the CSS exam. And I also believed in myself. I felt that I am able and capable of closing that gap whenever I go into corporate sector. And I think MBA from LUMS was also one of the reasons. The reason why I did was to close that gap that I had developed uh, initially
yeah.
because of CSS.
Yeah, yeah. So when you were like going through that like turmoil, for a lot of people, it's really hard to uh find that glimmer of hope. And like I think believing in our own self is like the far foreign thing when you are amidst that. So how you were able to find that, okay, I can believe in, like I can do it. Because I think that failures after failures that people will have, of course, negative connotation, at least at that point. So how you were able to find that? Was that external from people or was that internal?
So I think it was internal. I always had believed in myself while I was doing my CSS after even failing the CSS exam for like two times. I was still believe that I can do it, and even after the CSS when I was in my job, when I was in LAMS, I knew I can do the best. So it was not very hard for me to find that confidence that I can do it. So this is something that I also got help from my friends, because my friends also believed in me, that they felt that I was like capable enough and I was better than like majority and maybe
Yeah,
most of them. And therefore that that validation that I got from others also helped me
yeah.
maintain that belief that I can do it.
Yeah, yeah. Because sometimes, like, even when you have that internal, uh, that voice that you can do it, sometimes it kind of goes blurred and it kind of becomes really vague. So you need to have some external voice telling you that, yeah, you are worth it and you can do it. So I'm just glad you had people around. Okay. Also, like, just briefly, like, of course, there are going to be so many people because CS is like for some people it's like okay making that a change, but for a lot of people it's like okay having the job security kind of a mindset. So was that anything that was ever bring up while you were preparing for CSS? So okay, like job security is like a main thing that you will be able to do. Probably not like from yourself because you have a different perspective, but from like outside.
From like, are you asking about CSS? Why others do CSS, or are you asking why I chose
No, no.
CSS?
Like I'm saying, okay, like others are in the same path doing right, but I'm saying okay, there's this different of perspective. Some people who actually wants to make a change, but for others, it's just as a matter of job security, like not doing anything but
Yeah.
still have that job, right? So for people who are working towards it, like your example will help them in a way that did you go through that mindset? Like from outside people trying to tell you about job security, even when you want to bring a change, and they telling you, yeah, you cannot, or nothing would work.
So my plan was always to like learn as much as I can while I've done my CSS and become a CSS officer. And after a couple of years, maybe 10 years, I leave CSS. And I work for my own like space, my own consultancy, and then I try to work with the government to make change. So that was the plan from the start, even before like from the first attempt. So it was never about job security to me. Other people used to say this to me, but for me, the opportunity and the exposure that a CSS officer gets was this
Yeah.
thing that was most exciting for me. And I had met a lot of CSS officers because my dad is also a civil servant. So
Yeah.
I had met a lot of very competent civil service officers, and that they inspired me to be like gain as much knowledge as I can, and which I can employ, which I can use to make a difference in our country. So this was my motivation, and my motivation for consultancy was like this consultancy that I created in LUMS was similar, because I am steadfast that I want to work for the betterment of the country, and if not through the government pathway, maybe through the corporate pathway, through consultancy,
Yeah, okay.
public consultancy, I can like make my path from there as well.
Okay, that's great. Just another point in this, like, of course, your dad has been a civil servant. So, was that a pressure for you always to be in his footsteps when doing it? And if you were like not able to do your attempts, was it seen like you not being, you being compared to your dad a lot?
So my dad was obviously my inspiration, I think I was like not even mature enough to make my own dreams. I was made to believe that CSS, passing the CSS is my true calling, and I am born to be a CSS officer. There was something that like father had did it when the son was also do it. So like even in IBA, even getting A levels, so many good grades, for me, CSS was my true calling in IBA, even when I was getting very good grades in finance or in data analytics. So I did not discover my I did not discover that how I can use my skills in the corporate side and the private side as well. I was always motivated to do that thing. And when I was not able to pass, my dad was very disappointed, but my dad also is like mature enough to and very supportive enough to make me believe that you can also employ your own skills in other aspects, and maybe he
Yeah.
told me maybe you can do even better. He gave me like because he has like friends in very top level positions in the bureaucracy and has friends in corporate sides as well, and like he shows me comparisons of different lives, and he showed me that corporate life can be just as good, maybe even better, if you make like put your whole in the job that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. If you make that change, yeah, that's true. So like but since like you were from the very start were made to believe that is your only true calling, so when you were even like working on other things, like even when it comes to accomplishment, were they like, okay, those accomplishment, okay, A stars you're getting, but they were always bunched together on the side because at the end of the day is always like CSS to देना है.
Yeah, definitely. That it was like that. And what really helped me was when I got my last CSS exams result, I was like almost done with my first year in LUMS. And so like I gave my CS exam and started my LUMS
Okay,
journey. Like
okay,
it
okay,
was a
okay.
difference of 4 or 5 months. And typically a CS exam takes around 1.5 year to give the written exams result.
Yeah,
So in that 1 year while I was in LUMS, I used to study a lot, and I got to discover the different uh, avenues where I can go. And this was also very exciting because before that, maybe I was very set in like I have to do
yeah. It was
CSS or
very
maybe
single
do something
dimensional.
related to
Yeah,
single dimension. But like going to LUMS, I like got realized that the horizon is much further.
yeah,
So when I failed, it was not a big of an
yeah,
impact for me.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, now we are moving towards something we might be able to or not be able to relate with. So just struggles in Desi's family that all the eldest go through. But of course, when it comes to different genders, the struggles can be different, but they're always struggles, right? So of course, I am the eldest, and even being a woman, like I won't say even by being a woman, it was always, for me, it was always seen as you have to be perfect in doing whatever. Like, even if I screw up, it's always like, how did you screw up? Because my three brothers, even if they do, they were never like called out that way. So, was that with you too? Like, of course, it can be difference when it comes to you being like a male, like elder, but was it like the same for you or like maybe much harder?
So naturally, being the eldest, the the mantle that was going to be passed on to me, and therefore the responsibilities were also going to be passed on to me, and therefore my parents and the people elders expected me to be very mature, maybe even earlier than when
Yeah.
boys naturally get matured. So
Yeah.
for me, it was also very similar in the sense that I was very much criticized for even a small mistake that typical boy does. So it was a lot of strong expectations from a single male child that is also the eldest.
Yeah.
So so there was that. Um, but and I think because of that responsibility, I've also had a very strong feeling of uh, that I'm losing time. I'm losing time, that I have to like quickly so that my parents can take some rest and then I can take over their
Yeah.
responsibilities and give them that the retirement that they deserve. So for me, that was also always there, that I that feeling of responsibility, that conscientiousness, I don't have to do something that is not like like uh, like not good for the future of the family. So it was like very much ingrained in me that I have to make
Mm.
those decisions that are mature
Yeah.
enough from a very early age.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think like even like being elders, do you think like we grew up uh quite sooner than other people usually do?
Yeah, definitely. I think
Yeah.
that's the case with me as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like, even when it comes to your childhood, like, I saw a man speaking about it, and I had to pause the video because that was so true. Like, when it comes to your childhood, how it was like portrayed, how a man needs to be, right? So how it was portrayed, like when it comes to me being a woman, it was always like, okay, look at the women, that's what they're doing around you. And it was always about being a housewife and less about being setting an example of that sort of a thing. And in that video, this guy talked about that a lot of men were not taught to be men. A lot of men were taught to be not to be, how to not be a woman. So, do you think that's like a statement that's apt enough, like for your life as well? Because I know that's true for a lot of desi households for sure. So, just your perspective on
So I do think that it does ring very true to my ears as well. So my like I've always my dad is also a very masculine dad, like
it.
typical
Hmm.
Desi families.
Yeah.
So he has that certain expectations and notions about masculinity and how a guy should behave.
Yeah.
And I had internalized a lot of them through like conditioning that happens when you're a child. But there was also something that my like I have three younger sisters,
Yeah.
and my dad and I used to live with my grandmother as well. My granddad had passed as well. So my family was a very female, quantity wise dominated, and my dad used to go for postings in different cities. So I used to live with almost five women, and I used to be
Hmm.
the only guy in the
Hmm.
house. So and naturally, when you are with your siblings, you play with your siblings, and in that area, in that space, you can't be that masculine man always. You have to also let go of that masculinity, the rigid idea of masculinity.
Yeah.
Then that space, that experience helped me to lose that rigid sense of masculinity, in the sense that I would not uh, like have a problem with even washing dishes or maybe playing a certain game that guys you did not sense of
Does your sisters used to
masculinity
dress
in the
you
sense
up?
because of the experience that I had. I think not dress me up, but I think was something
Makeup.
related to के makeup type या पोनी चोनी जो होते थे.
I did my brother's makeup
Uh,
artist.
uh, uh, नॉट आई थिंक मेकअप भी नहीं, बट पोनी शोनी हो गया, और ये सारी चीज़ें हो गई, बाल
Okay.
बनाने वाला चीज़ हो गई. सो देयर वाज दैट, एंड मे बी मोस्टली वाज डांसिंग. The guys, the guys don't dance most often. So I used to dance a lot with my younger siblings, and mostly the thing that I was talking about is the idea of being very silly and childish and trying to
Yeah.
like make your sisters laugh. You let go of that rigid masculinity
Yeah.
at a very early age. तो वो एक वहाँ पे वो था.
Okay, but
Uh,
how? Yeah, go ahead.
नहीं बताओ,
No, no,
what do
no.
you wanted to ask?
Yeah, yeah. I just want to say, even though like you were able to get past that with your masculinity, but for example, even if your father is on a posting and he bring that, that rigid masculinity that they see are known about, was there ever a time that he would sit you down and tell you that the way you are maybe is not according to how men should be or something along those lines, or that never came up, or you just dive into that different side on your own?
So, like naturally, as I said, that the thing that I used to do was leave my masculine side. So at that time, being silly, being like always making fun, was seen as me being immature, not, and in this sense also not masculine. So it was something that my dad used to criticize and maybe say that okay, you need to grow up. Uh, so and I tried, and then I used to try to be mature early,
Yeah,
uh, but I think that had to come at their own, in its own time. You can't force
yeah,
maturity on your own
yeah,
self.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like even for me, I think I also got mature like way earlier than I should have. And also I think when it comes to elders, like you talked about being perspective, like so that your parents can relax and they can retire, so you can take over and take care of things. For me, it was my perspective to doing that, even though women are not seen like that. Even for me, like was always acha a women. Like even right now in my khandan, like there are a lot of women, but all other my cousins who are elder than me, they are married and stuff like that. And right now, I'm living in Karachi on my own. I do boxing. I do a lot of like community work and stuff like that. And I'm not in that traditional sense. So that is always seen as a question. So, like what you said, even if like immaturity comes on your own, I do think that the circumstances, even though we don't want it, they make you mature even earlier. And you being a 9 or 10-year-old, you being taking care of yourself, even though you know you didn't have to, but you kind of have to.
I understand what you're saying. Circumstances do accelerate the maturing phase, but I also feel that with age, even if you don't have those circumstances, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you want water?
I'm okay now.
Okay.
So maturity, I think, also comes with age as well. I think with age, I've also been able to understand the other side, others' perspective of things, which I was not able to understand previously. The grays in the blacks that I used to see, that someone is
Yeah.
bad, but
Yeah.
now I understand the grays, and I think that was because of, I think, age. I think circumstances भी, but I think age के साथ भी वो आपका naturally आता है. A child cannot cannot understand those
Yeah,
complex
that's
ideas.
true. That's true. That's true. Also, like, what do you think about that mindset that our society are now going through? That, for example, our generation is kind of blaming the parents of not giving us the right childhood, like in terms of not caring for mental health and stuff like that, and just blaming them. Of course, I have a different perspective on it, but how do you see that? Like, even I saw this ad and I was like, what's happening? So, how do you see that perspective?
So that is very true that the problems, the emotional mental problems that a person has a lot to do with the childhood that he has lived.
Yeah,
So I understand why some people are blaming their parents for the bad childhoods that they had and the impacts and the problems that they are facing right now.
yeah,
But I also feel that we need to understand some and give some like leeway to our parents in the sense that they were also children and they were also not mature enough to raise a child, and everyone is bound to make mistakes, and they were also products
Saad pani
of
piyo.
that same bad childhood that their grandparents had. So we can't like keep doing that, repeating that cycle of hate
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like passing down trauma. We need
yeah.
to learn to forgive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I think that with my perspective, I was, of course, like at the very start, do you want water? Why don't you
It's
get
okay.
water? Pani
And
le
we'll
lo.
restart.
Le lo pani.
Uh,
And we'll restart. Yes. Pani
we'll
le lo.
restart. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So he did had a sip of water, so I think we are good to go. So we were talking about that perspective of like the families of the parents. Like I just wanted to share that even though I had like after like COVID, like what you talked about, even though it was like a blessing in disguise, for me it was also about being aware and being very I think face to face with my own childhood traumas. And while I was going through it, I've had like a lot of mental breakdowns and stuff like that. And also, like, I think when you look at in the hindsight, you blame your parents for it. Like, why didn't they do that? Why did they do that? And they shouldn't have done that. And that's how it should be done. But just like I think just last year, this year, I was just listening to this podcast and where this woman was sharing that with in relations to what happening in Palestine, like women, like parents too, like with the resources they have available. Like for example, in Palestine right now, the resources and their main thing, you are stuck right now. No, 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 your eyes are moving
I can
somehow.
hear
Yeah.
you. I can hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
I
Okay.
can hear you.
So what I'm trying is to say is that, okay, in Palestine right now, parents, like, for example, children's main priority is not taking care of their children's like mental health. Right now, it's just basic needs of food and water and stuff like that, right? So, yeah, their mental health is going to be at stake, and for some reason, I'm sure it's going to be destroyed. But that's not the resources that they have. And I think for our parents as well, when they were raising us, they didn't have resources per se when it comes to taking care of our mental health because they were so busy into providing us food and into just caring for that safety and have that future. So just listening to that perspective, I know that I have found that like peace that was right, and also like how you said about not passing on that generation trauma because people who are not aware of that are still doing it. Like I can see in people that who have been through that torture and who is doing that same thing to other people, like in that with relations they are with, right? So again, like we cannot do that, but just this perspective, I think really helped me to say, okay, and but also like even though when it comes to like my parents, and even though like I'm all okay with it, at the same time, I've learned that I cannot also just undervalue my own struggles and my own shortcomings as well. So do you think that, yes, like it's good to have perspective and good to have empathy when it comes to your parents and other people, but you have found that for yourself?
So, so like my perspective, and I've built this perspective very recently, is that the pain and the trauma that we blame others for is essentially the trauma and the heartbreak is associated with our failure to protect our own selves and our
Yeah,
failure to help our own selves.
yeah,
So in that in that moment when we in that moment when we are triggered and we have that recalling of that bad memory and we have that mental breakdown, we have to make ourselves realize that we are not that person or that child anymore. We can help ourselves. We are able to help our own selves. So that is something that we need to remind ourselves, and therefore we also need to understand what are our problems and what are our what are our triggers, and then maybe be aware, and when these things happen we
yeah,
have that knowledge and awareness that we are not in the same situation anymore, we can help ourselves.
yeah,
So in that sense, this takes away the blame from the parents
yeah,
and makes you realize conscious about your own problems, and like isolates the parents from the problems that you have, and makes you drill down and focus on the problems that you have, and also tries to provide, and also we need to focus on the solutions that we like can do to improve our mental health as well. So there's a
yeah,
lot of self discovery and a lot of like what do you call it, self regulation sort
yeah.
of.
So, yeah, so in that, like, I have been through therapy as well because I think that helps. So, when I talk about you, like, if you're comfortable talking about, when it comes to you being in a position that you have been face to face with your own, like, struggles and everything, what was your route that has helping you and helped you to be the, for example, person you are today? Because, of course, every day we are learning, but every day, of course, there's a much different version.
So what has helped me is constant uh um like I think what has helped me is the people around me, and the people who have supported me and believed in me and have allowed me that went to talk to and share my problems. Apart from that, I also feel that a lot has to also do with the like myself as well. I have been taking care of myself in the sense that I do not let myself get overstressed. If I need a break, I take a break. I don't like study or like make
Yeah,
stress out,
yeah,
and I do give myself like that breathing space to do what I really want to do. Maybe if I want to play a video game, maybe I want to write, maybe I want to watch a TV show. So I do give myself a lot of that
yeah,
space and that ability. And I think, and the third thing is I do like actively try to make myself better, and in that discovery of making my in that journey of making myself better, I feel much better about myself, and in that sense, it gives me that belief that things would be better, things are better than before, things will be better in the future. So that belief, these couple of things combined, I think I'm sure the other things as well help
yeah,
me move forward.
yeah, yeah. So, when you say writing, do you mean like journaling and stuff?
So I like writing stories. I think I think we have talked about it. So like writing stories about fiction, about like fictional stories about like Pakistani desi ideas. Maybe mostly they're abstract about spirits, about forests, about self-discovery, about
Really? No, we have never
like
talked about. That's amazing.
not over.
Have you? We talked
Yeah,
about it.
so,
My memory is weak, so
I,
probably.
I think we've not. Maybe if you can't recall, maybe we have not. So I used to write. I've been writing since I think A levels.
Um,
So I
I
do
I
write.
I was I was never a person who would write, but just recently, I think circumstances just give you that perspective within you and also like around you. Just the most mundane things give you such depth when it comes to perspective, and that's how I thought, okay, I should write, and I have no idea how that came about. And then I started my Instagram page just because I love to write and
Yeah.
when I started writing, I have no idea where's that personality coming from. But yeah, I think it's good discovering new things and journaling, like what you said, even like just you talking about forest and like right now, even if I think, even though these are just abstract ideas that people would say, okay, they're nothing, but there is so much depth into these things that we pass by and not notice. And it's just so good. And what you said about like mental health, it does comes with a lot of like self-reflection. But do you think that even when it comes to right now working on like mental health, it has been more about uh, you being just soft with yourself. Because I think in our childhood, we are always, okay, we have to do this, we have to do that, and just criticizing, okay, we are not good enough, good enough, good enough. But now that we have had that maybe distance and we have had that time to think, we now realize that, okay, and it's okay to not be able to do, and it's okay to take a break.
Yeah, definitely. I was like bachpan se bhi I was not hard on myself. I used to be always, yeah, I used to be
Yeah,
chill.
likewise.
I used to treat myself a lot. I've always been like loving. I was always nice to myself since childhood. So I think I did struggle uh, with it during my IB hostel time. IB hostel time mein I used to reward myself more than what I should have been. So like you need to also regulate the reward
Yeah,
that you can.
yeah.
So I struggled with that, but like after that, I think I have been fairly successful in regulating the rewards and the good things that you can give to yourself. So that's that.
Okay. Or just one question when it comes to like personality. So I like, for example, even when talk about trajectory, I was always that reserved person. But I think with me as well, just being away, I'm able to find myself, and the reason I have found myself and be okay with myself, I have somehow gotten that feeling to be a woman of service, not in a way that I compare or anything or someone can do anything for me, because I know nobody can, to be just that person, right? So I know that in yours as well, like O levels, I've always like seen you someone at the back sitting and quiet and reserved, and always, of course, like when you talk about, there must have been going a lot on your mind and stuff that. And right now, who you are as a person, do you see like there's like a huge change inside?
Um, yes, definitely there is a massive change in me. not that reserved. Quite, I still am a little bit quiet and reserved, but not that much, not that extent that I used to be in O levels when I was like 12, 13, 14.
Yeah,
Um, and I think you gain some things, you also lose some things. That
yeah,
Saad was also very creative. That Saad was very sensitive to the nature and used to, and that Saad used to be, I think, was the best, like O levels, A levels, and then early IBA was the most creative I was. उसके बाद I am not as creative as I was at that time. And the writing, my writing right now, that writing was very good. I really liked, I was very good at writing abstract things at that moment. Right now, it's more structured, more mature in the sense about life and the problems of life. But
yeah,
that writing was I think much better in the sense. But I feel I've lost that. But and I think that Saad is always down there. It can come back, but it just needs that avenue, and that like the avenue that you found through
yeah,
LinkedIn. He can make a comeback. And the good thing that I gained was the confidence and the belief in myself
yeah,
and the
yeah,
belief that I can make a huge impact and I
yeah,
can take the spotlight on myself and lead
yeah,
people was something that
yeah,
I
yeah.
gained.
Yeah,
Like,
that's so yeah, that's so true. Even when I started my hair oil business as well, I was just at that time looking out to people, just asking them to just start a business with me because I know I had it in me, but I just somewhere thought that maybe just doing it all alone would not be enough for me. And I will leave in between, I won't be able to, I would get overwhelmed and stuff like that. Even like struggling with mental health issues at that time. So I was like, I wouldn't be able to. But, and yeah, it didn't happen. But right now, like even living in Karachi, I don't frequently go back home. And even like right now, my family has their own like flat, right? But I don't live with them. And of course, it's
oh,
questionable, and I don't. So because I think even though I found my comfort, but it's more about I found myself in it, right? I always wanted to be someone strong, but I know deep down I wasn't. And although, like, I started boxing because I thought I would beat someone, but somewhere down the line, I just found that composure and that confidence and my love for animals that came about, and just helping people, and just being very open person, like talking to strangers, making communities. And I think I know that this Aksa, I know that would be able to do a lot more for my parents and my family. So it's okay for me to be away because I know I can be a person of service for them than just being living with them in that way. So yeah, like, so is that same for you in Lahore? Because I know that calling, it's not enough, video call is not enough. So when you're with yourself, like, I know that creative part is down there. Like, I have found my creative part that I didn't even know existed. And I know when you will find it, you will find it, okay, that's art is kind of now blossomed much more. So has living alone made that huge difference for you too? And do you think that people should live alone, like regardless of their gender, or maybe like men per se?
um, I think living alone is an exercise that helps you explore and discover about yourself and gives you
Yeah.
that space to be your own self away from the responsibilities of the other people. And I think it's very important for everyone to, regardless of the gender, have
Yeah.
that experience. And for me, staying away from my parents, I also feel that me going to Lahore, maybe if I get a job in Lahore or maybe Islamabad, I will staying away from my parents after my graduation MBA might also be something that is I would like
Consider.
would do consider and would also consider it as something that I am doing for the benefit of my future family that I will have and my
Yeah.
parents as well, because
Yeah.
that you have to build your own career to have that financial muscle
Stability.
to
Yeah.
maybe ability to support your parents when they are near retirement. So there is that. But I also feel, but I would prefer to be with my parents, because what I've realized is we have entered that into that stage where right now our parents have receded to becoming reverted into being like a child. So right now, I think they need someone, they need a parent with themselves. And right
Yeah.
now, us children need to become the parents of
That
our own.
parent role. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think, I think not right now, but like maybe in the like near future, I would prefer to live with my parents and take that role, play that role.
Yeah, for me, I think that's different because for me, it's that when I am near, I'm not able to regulate my emotions even more or do something for my parents per se. Like even when I was living in Hyderabad in a close proximity, I wasn't like very productive. I didn't even know what I could do. So I think, yeah, that matters. Also, like since you talked about, of course, building family of your own when it comes to like our society, right? So as a man, people, I even like I have three brothers, right? I know that as a man, people are not that aware of the responsibility of a man, right? And it kind of mostly stems from financial stability, and that's where full stop happens, right? So what would you want to talk about, like when it comes to responsibility of a man? Because you have to take care of your current family and that new that you have to build as well and maintain that balance, right? So, just want to know.
So definitely the financial aspect is there as well, but you also have to provide that anchor in the family as well. All of the so what happens in a desi household, you have to start your own family. You have someone from a different house coming into your house. You have to make them feel safe. Need have
Yeah,
to make them feel welcomed. You have your own parents who are receding, reverting back to into their child state. You need to like become a license between your parents and the
yeah,
person who's coming in. So it's a lot of responsibility in that sense. You also have your children. Previously, the the childhoods were mostly protected or like nurtured by mothers, but I don't want my children to have that like sole mother nurturing a
yeah,
child
yeah,
type of childhood. I would also want to take active part in my childhood's nurturing. So there is that as well. But more than that, I think the everything that is in the public domain, the struggles that a person has to do, especially in the country like Pakistan, the problems in the sense that there's a lot of fraud and scams, and like you have to protect people from the people who might not have good intentions for you. Then that battle is also something that man has to like take the front stage in.
yeah.
And so these are like couple of things that I think are primary responsibilities of a man.
Mhm. Okay. And what about like the emotional side? Like even when it comes to my own family, I don't think that we comfortably cry or hug or talk about emotions that much. So was that first different for your family? And do you think that it's important as a man in a role of raising a family to have that openness when it comes to that emotional I think emotional stability per se.
Yeah, definitely. I think the emotional aspects of everybody needs to be needs to be developed in the sense that previously men used to disassociate themselves with the emotions that they felt.
Yeah,
That was effective in the sense that it did allow them to provide that stability because there was not a lot of spikes in their emotions, in the sense that they did not feel like anger or like that extreme emotion. They did not feel because they were detached from those emotions. But I feel that detachment had taken up a lot of cost in them. But and in the society that we are in currently, where both of the like the husband and the wife are earning, the roles I feel also require, because the female has taken some role of the man in the sense of providing financial responsibility. The man also needs to change himself in the sense that he takes up some emotional responsibility in the sense, and if he is disassociated, detached himself with the emotions, then he will not be able to do that emotional responsibility. These emotional responsibilities can be in the sense that like making sure that your parents, her parents, are not naraz or something. Your child is not angry or afraid. You talk to him, you explain him some things. Maybe the people you are working with, your driver or maybe whatever, what is his problem here, there, because previously this was responsibility of the woman in the household, but this is
Yeah,
something that, and it is a lot of labor, it is requires a lot of emotional labor. I feel the man also needs to like take some of the burden of it, because the
yeah,
woman has also the burden of it, the
yeah, yeah.
financial.
Yeah, yeah. And like within the family as well, right? Building uh that just ground of sharing emotions, pouring emotions and everything. So of course, like I do think that even for your like family growing up, it wasn't very common to share emotions. Uh so I think that's with it. Also, one thing you mentioned, like I think that growing up, when it comes looking at masculinity, it was not detachment from all emotions, but it was attachment towards the wrong ones. And what I mean by that is that, yeah, it comes financial responsibilities, comes that, but I think for them, it's also like it comes with having that sort of arrogance, like okay, I earn, so like I make a difference and none no other people can, and they have the leverage to be angry, they have the leverage to be insensitive and not care about the upbringing of children, because for them it's just like okay, I'm earning, so I'm definitely doing something important and you guys are not, right? So do you think that perspective is still there in our society, or do you think that you as a man and also like a lot of men like around you are changing?
So I think the like both yes and no. It's still very prevalent in many households, even the modern households that
Yeah,
have that like come from the same class, from the same educational background. It's still very prevalent. Men do have receded and have gotten back into the same roles that the parents have. And although they were taught about all of these things, they have receded back because easier for them, because the
yeah,
society is structured, Pakistani society is structured in such a way
yeah,
where
yeah,
it is encouraged for a man to be like go back to that same role. But I do think because of the social media and because of the media, there has much more awareness in men. Previously, men who used to do the same things protect do some household labor, or maybe uh, tapped into their emotional side, uh, were looked down upon, frowned upon,
yeah,
are not being done so extensively now as compared to in the past. So I think this change has already begun, and I think the future generation would be even more suited for the future, where men and women are much more equal in the sense. But I think the pace is a bit slow. Maybe not in our generation, but I think the next generation there might be a big
yeah.
change.
But don't you talked about social media? Don't you think social media like even when it comes to me generating content as well, it's not like you being always that perfect family that you showcase. Yeah, I mean that, example, a man is like doing dishes, that's being recorded as something rewarded, than women doing it all her life. A man changing a pamper is seen as something rewarded, something like that. So do you think that what you're saying, perspectives come more from the social media and less from the practical and personal examples like around you, or you have seen that change?
So you're right. The posts and the content that I get on my social media is catered to what I usually believe in. So maybe it has created a filter bubble which is showing me the perspective and the life that
Yeah.
I see, and I'm sure there is a very different filter bubble for very different person as well, which is reinforcing the traditional
Hmm.
conservative thoughts. And there are a lot of very big mega celebrities which are part of that reactionary force, reactionary part, where the change that was being brought about by uh, in men for being more productive, more participative in the household.
Hmm.
There has been a very counterculture, very reactionary
Yeah,
movement.
yeah.
In the sense, as there are some like I'm not sure about the guy's name, but there are a couple of guys on YouTube who are promoting men to be like more that same hegemonic masculine way that our parents were. What I was talking about was not per social media per se, but the media, the international liberal media, I think has brought that change in the West. And naturally, what my belief is, whatever happens in the West naturally trickles down into nations like Pakistan because of the globalization. So I think the values that that are being inculcated and are have been inculcated in the West will slowly move in and creep in Pakistan as well, regardless of whatever is appearing on someone's social media. So the change might be slow, but there would be a small shift in the way people behave.
Okay. So
Mm.
what do you mean when you say West? Because when it comes to me and I see West, it's like the male are being treated as this huge people. Like if even in Hollywood, I think that that perspective is definitely a bit corrupted. So are you like backing in, for example, researches and stuff like that? Because like I would always been like West just just destroying that, that male and female, even if like for example we talk about equity between them because everyone brings in different skills and everything. I just think West kind of destroys like both roles, and women are kind of doing everything men are supposed to do, and men are just, I don't know, they're just being shrunk down or something. Like, what's your perspective on it? Because of course I might be wrong.
So you're right. The West has that problem of superimposing their own history and society onto others and making the values in the sense that might not be like very like suitable for the country like Pakistan. And you're right that there has been a lot, and there is a very clear distinction between women and men and in the West. But what I really like about West is not afraid to engage in conversations. That is the problem in countries like Pakistan. So
Yeah,
in the West there is that freedom to speak whatever whatever you want to speak. And
yeah,
in that process, even if you like something or not, this creates new ideas and creates a middle ground, and that middle ground is how change is brought about. So you're right, there is a lot of extreme positions in the West because of the freedom of expression, freedom of speech. People are like, you can find crazy people in the West, like talking nonsense about like things, but there are some people who are also on the other extreme as well, and people are also on the center extreme, center right, center left. But these conversations create a new synthesis that brings about a society that is better than before, because we are catering to as many people as we can, and that in that compromise the society is moving forward. I think that's why West is a bit better than than Pakistan, because there is much more freedom of expression there.
Freedom of expression, yes. Like, I do agree that to be able to talk about it. Well, for example, if I have to talk about even something as basic as religion and something about that, I think the whole mob would come on to me, right? So that's pretty true. But what I'm saying that when it comes to West, the people who are being idolized, even on social media and even on when it comes to the general media, they are idealized, but then again, they means to be a man and what it means to be a woman as well. Like men, when it comes to, of course, that soft and that protective nature, they don't. I feel like they don't abide by those rules, and women are again like they're just doing over above and beyond for just finding a person and stuff like that. So my perspective is comes on the people who are influencers and setting the example. They're not like doing anything, or rather I'd say destroying the whole empowerment things, and in that both genders are being destroyed.
um I understand what you're trying to say, but I think the role that those influencers are playing are also very essential, in the sense that they are the voice of millions of people. They are not creating their own ideas. These are ideas which are prevalent in the society as well. They're just voicing those ideas by being the face of those ideas. And these ideas were something that were uh, uh, have become very popular in the society because of the rise and the prevalence of the liberal ideas and the postmodernist ideas that had been like very prevalent in the last 10-15 years. So those to counter those ideas, these new ideas have become have came up with vengeance and have taken a very extreme position, and therefore those extreme positions, although I believe most of people don't believe in those extreme positions, but those are the
Yeah.
only voices that they have. And in that in that struggle, when these two ideas meet, something will be created which I think will be better for the future, because I do think that what they are saying is a product of what society has uh, been doing for a year, for many decades and many centuries. So maybe there is some merit to what they're saying. So, and maybe the critique that they are making of this might have some merit. And in that struggle, when this side and this side battles it out, something new would erupt. So I think in the sense that those Andrew Tates and all of those people are playing some role for the for that conversation.
Okay, how about we move on, hop on to the another one because I think this is going to get down anytime soon. Okay,
Okay.
let's. Okay, so I want to say I was like, let's just move on to the other meeting because I was sure it's going to get chopped off in between. So you were talking about influencers, right? I think that what you talk about freedom of speech, that's true because I think that a lot of a lot of my learning, especially about religion like Islam, came from the Western scholars, like how they portray, how they talk about, and stuff like that. But then again, I do think that when it comes to being influencers, yes, people like Andrew Tate, whatever, they play a really big, they play an important role, but I think they don't understand the gravity of the situation or gravity, the role they're playing. that yes, like they sing and they do like media, they do films and stuff, but sometimes even if they talk about an issue that's really important, even that's about women empowerment. And for example, in Pakistan, the same women, the same actresses would go to working in the movies or in dramas that would portray women as being like uh, submissive or dumb or stupid, something like that. So, what do you think? Like, do you think influencers are taking their roles seriously? Because I highly doubt it. Even when it comes to song, even when it comes to what they've been even good at.
Um, I think uh I'm not a huge I don't follow EduTrade, but I don't think the things that EduTrade is saying are something that are very unique and very different. I think those ideas is already in the society, is just being the voice of those society, those ideas, and being the face of those ideas. And similarly, all of the influencers, female influencers who might uh, appear to be a bad influence are just showcasing a big, or maybe doing the same things that are already being in society on a platform. However, the thing that the responsibility lies on the people on who are protectors or guardians of the people who can be easily influenced by these people and do not have that ability to comprehend what is right or what is wrong. Maybe should be more check on them that these children or whatever are not exposed to these influences. Maybe like people like us, you and me, who are mature enough, can explore
Differentiate.
whatever they
That's
want. Yeah.
true. Yeah, that's true. But then again, that's again putting a lot of pressure on the guardians, a lot of pressure on the parents. Just because an actor or an actress or influencer cannot do their job properly, right? So I was just having this conversation, and she was that person I was talking to, one of my flatmates. She was just sharing how Ranbir Kapoor was saying that, yeah, okay, like I'm playing these weird roles, but that does not mean people are supposed to be inspired from them. But it's not, it's, for example, if you have a voice, definitely you're going to inspire people, and definitely the guardians and parents cannot make all the difference. So I just think that there's a lot of pressure on, yeah, like for example, gatekeepers when it comes to influences that are parents, that are guardians. But I do think that these influences, yes, they're bringing on what's existed in the society, but that does not mean they bring about a use their voice to bring about that, for example, bad things in the society that have destroyed the society, but society have buried it underground and they're just digging up and bring it out in the open. I haven't heard Andrew Trader. I'm just using that as an example, but I am just sharing about what I have seen from the influencers, especially like about having that perspective of who is right and who is wrong and stuff like that.
So I'm not only solely blaming or putting responsibility on the guardians. I'm also putting responsibilities on the corporates which provide the platform to these influencers. They need to make sure that children are not exposed to this. To the government, who where the influencer reside, and if they are providing and making such claims or things, saying these things, that they should be fined or something similar to that. So this is something that the responsibility needs to be shared with multiple stakeholders. And talking about what you said about um, that these influencers are digging up stuff and then putting it forward, which had already been buried, should remain buried. I feel that this exercise in itself is also very important. For example, I'll give you an example. If the philosophers of the early time were not thinking, were not making, like questioning things, then we might have not known that the world is round. We would have thought that the world is flat, and maybe there has been a lot of like very things that were like established that it is true, but later on we found that it was not true because of
Hmm.
something that was like discovered and was relegated and buried in the past. So these are constant exercises that have to happen.
Yeah.
Like this is something God like Hegel says these are called synthesis and antithesis, and these are in the form of ideas which need to be constantly at battles at with each other. Like जो अभी prevalent ideas and they need to be fighting with all of the ideas that they can for them to be refined even more.
Yeah.
So
The thing
it's
is
better.
that that's what I'm saying, that though ideas should be questions, ideas should be taken in forward, but there are some things that influencers would say, yes, they're going into women empowerment, they're talking about this, they have their songs made about it, but when it comes to their actions, they are doing completely different. Like, I'm not saying people don't think about it, I say people shouldn't think about, but the fact that you have a job as an influencer, you are influencing millions of people, whatever comes out your mouth has to be in check, because yeah, of course you make mistakes, but then again you have to be very, very, very like cognizant about what you say, because again, then again, you chose this part of being an influencer, so you cannot influence people in the wrong way. And what you said about government, yes, government should do that, yes, people should do that, but then again, it's not always for our people outside to take, to protect, for example, the young ones, right? Yeah, of course we'll do our job, but then again, you would find a 10 to 12-year-old on those website where I don't know, it's all Ogle or something like that, where you just have this video chat with people. I have no idea. So you kind of have that, right? So if influencers, if people actually think about what's right and what's wrong and abide by those as a person, okay, say if I'm doing it, what's my responsibility when it comes to myself and people around, and everyone thinks that, I think that would be better rather than just saying, okay, influencers are doing whatever they can, whatever has been society, but now we as the people need to protect ourselves.
So my perspective is a bit different from your perspective. I
Hmm.
am very self-expression. I feel that self-censorship should be not that much, as long as that censorship is not hurting someone. If it is hurting someone, it needs to be stopped. Unless, apart from that, I think there should be freedom of expression, even if those ideas might be influencing people in the wrong way, because uh, if there is some censorship, the process of society modernizing and developing would be hindered, in the sense that how other way would these people get a platform other than YouTube to communicate and bring, like, talk about those ideas. So I think in that sense, it is like self-censorship
Yeah,
should
of
not be.
course. Of course, like self censorship, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, yes, people need to talk about. The thing is that people are not talking about it. When people in comes to talking about it, they're talking about, for example, women empowerment, and their actions are completely opposite of what women empowerment actually means. Or when it comes to men, yeah, they're playing role of being that toxic masculine that people hate, but they are then again saying that, okay, that's just a role I just did, that people should have enough filter in their mind. Why would they have filter? Like, if you are an influencer, you have that responsibility that your words should be followed by your actions. I'm not saying they should be fit, shouldn't be. We need to talk about ideas. We need to talk about all of these things. I'm just saying people need to be responsible for what resources and what opportunities they have been giving. And if you are an influencer, so then you have a responsibility of like millions of people because you have made your life that.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I think there is some truth to that. You have to make sure that you don't make any
Hmm.
extreme suggestions, or maybe have some consistency with your actions and your words. And but don't people can quickly catch if a person being hypocritical. People don't.
No.
um yeah, I think the problem is more to the way people are brought up. People are not given that ability or the like skills to be
Yeah.
self to be critical, and to have that lens to make sense of what is not true and how people actually are. So this is something I think needs to be there, rather than stopping the source of information or the influencer. People should have that ability, that lens, that skill to differentiate and make their own decisions rather than blindly following someone. I think that is would have been more effective.
Yeah. No, probably we'll agree to disagree because we have different perspective. And if we talk about
Yeah,
it, I think we'll
this
talk
is
about throughout
certified,
the
yeah.
night or something like that. But let's dig into that toxic male perspective that we wanted to talk about a lot. So even for me, like as a woman, it's always been like, okay, the kind of the perspective of men and the men that have been around that I grew up with. Of course, there always have been that toxic masculinity that has made a lot of women like hate them. And a lot of times there have been this idea that not all men, but men when it comes to anything, right? So do you think that perspective have changed when it comes to you interacting with other people, even when talking to male people, like how their perspective, and then the opposite gender, and even approaching a female for anything, like even if it's something good, you have to think like thousand times because that can be taken as a very wrong way.
Yeah, yes, you're right. I think there has been a a very conservative and hegemonic way that our society has been living, and this has created very inefficiencies and ineffectiveness inside where how males interact with other males and males interact with women.
Yeah.
So this is previously maybe the society was like constructed or maybe was designed or used to operate where this model could have worked, but not right now. I don't think that model could survive for very long. That needs to be changed, and that nature of masculine nature of workplace needs to evolve, and it will not only help the people inside working but the organizations themselves. I can see myself that masculine competition that is very prevalent in
Hmm.
an organization has been damaging the performance of a company. For example, I'll give you an example. I used to work with high tech pipe, so it was a manufacturing plant. So what I used to see was that people used to boast that I am not wearing safety gear and I'm working for more hours than others. And in that
Hmm.
sense, in that way, they were making more mistakes.
Hmm.
But through because of that masculine competition, just to prove that I'm more masculine, and the company was making loss.
Yeah.
That needs to change in the sense that, even in lums, I think in the struggle for a guy or a person, or anybody, even a girl, in the struggle to be the best. They try to hide stuff and then maybe like take the not the most ethical ways, and in the process are ruining the entire classes learning outcomes. So in that competition, masculine competition sense, we are holistically society wise losing a
Mm-hmm.
lot, and the organization losing a lot, and this that's something that needs to be changed. So what we did in an organization was we like made, and I feel people, the men can also be easily made understood that what they're doing is not very like very good for themselves and the company itself. And when you tie the performance with the performance of the company and the performance of the people around them, the men, what I've realized is men typically try to understand quicker. For example, if you say to a man that what you're doing will have an impact on your other friends or your colleagues or your company itself, they're trying to pick it up quicker. For example, uh, while the example that I gave in high tech, so we
Yeah.
made it, we told them that it is very important for you guys to take an half an hour break after you've done some work, and showed them the data कि अगर if you guys take some break, the chances of an error because of loss of concentration reduces,
Mm-hmm.
would reduce. And in that sense they were able to understand uh, and give up that masculine competition of working without taking breaks. So this is how you can tie it up. And one more thing was very, I think, very important was how up top management also highlights and does not normalize such toxic behavior. For example, if a man in my office does something which is not something good, it should not be swept under the rug. It should be highlighted and it should be made uh, such an example of okay, this is something that needs not to be done again, and it should be corrected, or maybe the person should be let go. So that tacit approval given by most of the senior management in these organizations when someone does something that is not uh, in the masculine sense, maybe talk to a girl which is not
Appropriate.
appropriately, needs to be highlighted and should be made an example of, so that people down below understand like that
Yeah,
that's
but
something
yeah,
important.
I think that's right. But don't you think you're speaking more of more like an idealist society? Like, if this happened, this will be good, and you and being optimistic. But realistically speaking, like that is not as easy as it sounds. Like, if for example, even like I talk about my brother, like even in his office, it's about how many hours you put, and the more you do, the more you earn. And then the perspective of males, um, ability to take care of a family is based on how much he earned. They would spend even hours like throughout the night and everything so that they can earn more. So, yeah, for example, you've had because you were able to show them that there won't be errors or anything. But when you look at generally as a society, don't you think that competition like is still destroying so many people? And even though yes they are making errors, or even though maybe they are not making errors, but uh, seldom they understand the impact they have on their personal lives.
That's very true. I think you're right, spot on in that. People, or even if they do realize it, they do not value it as such as much
Yeah,
as they value, because it's very typical for men to derive their sense of worth through these material and tangible
yeah,
stuff. So maybe you are right. It was a bit optimistic and idealistic to expect men to give up their pursuit, their I think self-destructive pursuit of just chasing after material money and financial resources and giving away the things that really matter. But I think uh, it is the role of people around them to make them aware of the problems that they might suffer if they continue to this with the same path. Maybe their friends or maybe their loved ones could highlight the impact that they're
Yeah,
making. I think
but
that's what
yeah,
most people can do.
yeah. But then again, if they have friends, then mostly they're in competition with their friends too, and they have the same
Um,
mindset and stuff like that. So it's more of like them just realizing that taking a step back is actually important, because for them, if they fail something, like how many have been gone into depression or stuff like that, because they just think, okay, if we are not able to do it, that's
yeah.
just something, yeah, just weird, and we won't be able to start a family or stuff like that. They won't be able to go down that route. So I do think that's also like a very strong path. Also, like when it relation with the opposite gender, women. So in my perspective, I do think that the way society is moving, women are like what you said, taking those roles of men, like financial stability, providing them. So do you think the society is moving more towards like each men and women have different perspective, and they're just not able to find that common ground where they can actually uh, start a family or per se in a much better manner. But I do think that maybe I'm contradicting, because the amount of shadis we are going through is like sale lagi hui hai. But then again, I do think that the perspective that's changing in women and men is like on a whole different level that was before.
Yeah, I think the way that family was structured, the family structure itself is in like is being transformed like in a way. Previously, there was very joint families were very prevalent. The
Hmm.
male was the primary responsible for the finances, but I think it is changing, and we are part of that era where the change in the family structure would finally materialize. And we are seeing I'm sure a lot of our mutuals have a very different family structure as compared to our own cousins or our own elder cousins or our mamas and mamis and chachas and chachis and our own parents. So we can see that family structure being changed, and that consensus between the men and the women, I think, in that abstract and that ambiguous and unstructured way, needs to be communicated and negotiated before
Yeah,
marriage,
yeah,
and how it will be after marriage. So this is very
yeah,
important for the young couples in our generation to like talk about how the life would be after a marriage, because the old family structure cannot sustain now. We
yeah,
have to
yeah,
rethink it.
yeah. But I think in my perspective, like I do believe in that old perspective. Like maybe I'm a traditionalist, like I really don't care, but like the men being that sole provider and having that aura around him, but at the same time have that maturity, like how it's different for him to have a personality when it comes to being that sole learner and being that caretaker when it comes to home as well. So I'm okay with being that different role. I'm okay with being like not equal, not earning stuff like that. Like even if I am, that would be for me. But I do believe in those traditionalist roles that are coming in. And I think when it comes to marriage, there's just one mutual marriage that is coming in February. Uske alawa, तो there hasn't been, but I've just gone so many
Yeah,
this
I
reason.
hope
Are
I'll
you?
be able to attend that wedding. I
Yeah,
want to attend the wedding, but I have my classes at that time.
really?
I will try my best to come.
Yeah, really? Yeah. Samra was saying to me this, you're Saud's best friend, so you'll have to
Yeah,
say.
and I have to come. Yeah, I have to come.
Yeah, okay. What else? So also like when you talk to like of course when it comes to competition we all see that's prevalent, but do you think you are able to even sit down with men and talk about okay what's happening and it shouldn't happen and stuff like that?
Um, like depends on the like you
Person.
men don't do it with all men. There are very few people you feel comfortable enough. Saud is one of those people
Yeah,
I can talk to. I can talk to. There are few more, but not many. Not more than a single handful.
yeah,
So, and I feel this is a problem in our society because the nature of our masculinity is that it's very fragile. If you appear weak, all of the effort that a man has made of building that masculinity and building that aura can vanish instantaneously if he appears weak by others. So we guys have to like are very we guard that masculinity very much, and we only show our weak side when we feel that it will not impact our masculinity. So
yeah.
that's that.
Yeah, like of course. So one thing you talked about, like we need to have more conversation and stuff, and I totally agree with that. But if, for example, if someone who is looking the perspective of getting into marriage and is just, for example, this guy is exploring regarding what my responsibilities would be when it comes
Mhm.
to my own current family and it comes to like building this new relationship. So we cannot just talk about okay ideas and stuff like that. So one thing, where do you think that person will get okay even if not a full structure but then idea how that should play around? And second, like what advice would you give that person, because of course you are more or less kind of in the same way, so someone may be like getting into that step like that you are in the path of just marriage and stuff like that, because we are 29 and 30 and parents are like shadi karo. And then so like what would you say when it comes to first getting that blueprint and second is your advice?
So I'd say it is very important for a person to first know himself and first know what is important for him to have a very fulfilling life. I cannot give a single blueprint to a single person. First, that person, a man or a woman, needs to understand what life he wants to lead and how he personally is. And only then he is able to understand and choose his own or her own spouse.
Yeah,
So I would say that it's very important for people in their 20s to read up on different psychology, or maybe try to write about themselves and the traumas, maybe go to a therapist
yeah,
and try to discover themselves. And in that process they'd be better able to decide what they want from their life. After, I think they have like uske baad, I think they need to also choose the spouse that they want, and in that process they need to be very, like, in my opinion, they need to have a very open like mindset. They not should not like be very afraid of saying things that they really want, maybe just to feel that it might
rough
make
people
them
up the
appear very
yeah,
conservative or whatever. Yeah, maybe if, for example, if a guy does not wants the wife to take care of the child, and he wants to be the only earner he needs, and if he feels that it is the best family model that is suitable for him and he really wants it, then he needs to explicitly tell the wife
communicate,
rather than
yeah,
disappointing her after marriage.
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think this is
And
very
yeah.
important.
Yeah. And also, like this, you said from
Mhm.
a male's perspective, what do you think being a male, a women should be? Because I think that there are of course a lot of issues that comes with it as well. So what's one thing you think if a woman is getting into, he should be aware of in choosing a guy, or questions or arenas she can say,
So I
like,
would say it's very important for the girl to make sure that the guy is open to change himself, because I'm of the school of thought that nobody is perfect. People are, if after marriage two wounds get together and their two wounds are have a very different way of leading their lives, and they will make their lives miserable, each other's life miserable, if they do not change their flawed way of living. So in that sense, you need to make sure that the guy is at least willing to understand himself and understands and how important he values the spouse, and how much uh, responsibility does he feel in association with the wife
family.
that he's bringing
Yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah.
तो उसकी
Mm-hmm.
रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कितनी है, उसकी कितनी फील करता है रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी उसके ऊपर. Like I think it
Mm-hmm.
needs to be, I think the responsibility of wife is the greatest responsibility for a man, and I'm sure for a
Yeah,
woman that's great, because
yeah,
that's the time आप सबसे ज़्यादा उसके साथ ही टाइम स्पेंड करोगे अपनी पूरी लाइफ में. So it's very
exactly.
important. तो uh, that person needs to be clear about himself, and he needs to also feel that and feels responsibility about marriage. The दो चीज़ें I
Yeah,
think it's very important.
yeah. But don't you think expecting other person to change, that's like diving into a whole bluff?
Bluff. You are right. I'm not saying that we would change or that guy would change. Just saying, is he flexible enough to have that ability to change? Does he
Okay.
have that ability to change? Like small things, like for example, if a person uh wants to, like, I don't know, get to a party early, or maybe whatever. So
Yeah.
like small things,
Yeah,
is
I
he
think small things
willing to
does make
make
a big difference.
compromises?
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
yeah, 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 yeah. That's it.
so
Yeah.
some people are very rigid, some people are very rigid, they don't change their ways.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why I do believe that people, one thing, people right now getting married, okay, so I've for some reason made my peace with it. Why are they making babies? I would not understand that also very quickly. Like, you can have some time, like 3 to 5 years, to actually understand that you're compatible. Maybe it won't work out, and that would be okay. But when people brings in kids, pachi Allah, I don't know why they do that. Also,
I
yeah,
think I
yeah,
think
go
I
on.
think वो ये भी है कि the the people also feel, have their traumas associated with it, because I whatever the couples that I know who got married early and have a baby had their parents either marrying very early and they served as a role model, or their parents married very late and they felt a lot of trauma associated with it, because when they were like in their teenagers and they wanted to do something, their parents were too old and they had to take responsibilities when they were too young. So I feel there is trauma attached with it. The young couples want
Yeah.
not for their children to suffer the same fate that they suffered of
So
having
that's why
old
they're
parents.
making babies so that they can do right. Are you trying to say that?
I think this is something not consciously that they're making, but there's something that is back in their head. Either this, or maybe their parents are like served as a role model, or maybe as an external force of doing it
No,
early.
that's not
And
true.
maybe just, I don't know, people don't plan stuff. I
No,
don't
that's
know.
true. That's true. That's true. Yeah. but also like I think that even when it comes to trauma, like what you said, uh if you don't know what your weaknesses and what your strengths are for your own self, then I don't think you'll be able to even provide or abide by their responsibilities when living with the other person, because that's a whole another ball game, and you both suffer in that, and that when you bring in children you suffer even more. Anyhow, also recently, like just one thing, your I think it was in a year ago, your one of your sisters got married, right? So was it
Yeah.
like a very hard thing for you as a brother, or was it like, yeah, okay, done, stuff like that?
So yeah, my younger sister got married. She's only a year and a half younger than me, and we used to like that's like जो आपका सबसे छोटा सबसे closest sibling होता है,
Yeah.
you hang out with them the most. So in that sense, in that time, like my family and me were ready for the marriage, and her uh, leaving us because she has moved to Canada. She doesn't
Oh,
live in Pakistan. Yeah. So we were ready for it that she'll leave, and the fact that we are aware of what she's doing, what is happening in her life through FaceTime, through social media, through WhatsApp. So this has like reduced the pain
the
of
word,
her
yeah,
leaving.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think my parents and our family was mature enough to realize that this is a journey that is her own, and this is
Yeah,
a journey that is better for her, and we are happy for her itself. And the marriage itself was also an experience. Being the eldest,
yeah,
I had to also make sure like it was a different experience to lead a event and how to
yeah,
manage an event.
yeah.
And I remember my last CS exams were like a week or a 10 days after the
Oh my
events.
God.
Yeah, so I had to like study every all night for that, and then in the morning I had to go and get stuff
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then talk to a lot of people. So it was an experience. That was an experience as well.
yeah. Pretty sure, pretty sure. Gotcha. We'll now just dive into a bit of mental health because a lot of people go through, and then we'll just move on to our different segment, fun one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In your perspective, how do you define mental health as a whole? And in perspective to a male, do you think that people are now becoming more aware of it?
I think that there is much more awareness about about how to protect one's mental health, what is the risk of mental health, how it is impacting someone. So there's definitely more impact, and talking and I myself have benefited from that. I am much more conscious about my mental health. I know about more stuff than I'm sure what my dad knows about
Yeah.
mental health, and therefore I was able to take care of myself better. There is much more acceptance of me going to a therapist and a counselor rather compared to
Yeah, so of course we got had to just go on to another call. So we were talking about the mental health. So just last question under this segment, because of course we have been speaking for a lot of time. So
yeah.
does do you think that mental health struggles even for men, like I know that people are becoming like more aware of it, it's still there, like the men should not be seen as weak, and we can compare to like emotional vulnerability and stuff like that, and it's still there and it still needs work on.
Definitely, I think there is a lot of work to be done, and currently men like there is this hegemonic masculine culture that we
Yeah.
have, which stops men and discourages men to be more weak and more vulnerable, and they have some social controls which takes away from the man who's being vulnerable stuff that he has made a lot of effort to earn, for
Yeah.
example, respect, or maybe like for example, I'll give you an example. I personally know a person who was went to an appraisal meeting and became vulnerable, talked about the problems that he was suffering from his house. His boss looked at him as someone who's very weak and did not think he was a leadership material. So there is like this very much tangible impact that can be made if a person becomes vulnerable. So there is a lot of social control that stops men from being vulnerable and being open up. And this is something that is not only creating an impact on the individual itself, but the people around him. And he is not able to, like, if even if his career or his corporate or organization requires him to be detached and not talk about his mental health, he brings that same energy back to his house as well, and therefore creates more problems there as well. And I think the parents itself also play a role, even his friends, all of them have that, like that social impact that stops the person from being vulnerable and talk about mental health. There needs to be a lot of work. However, I think the media and movies, I think, have made going to a therapist more acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is gaining more and more prevalence and acceptance in men. And I think men who find it very difficult to talk about mental health with other people can and should definitely go to a therapist and explore
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Like even right now, like of course I've gone to one, but now I've seen more people comment a post about that they want to see one, and I've seen like even men taking that down that route, because I think because of COVID, I somewhat think that people living alone and just with themselves, they're just finding out, okay, I have this, I have to take care of this, and they're doing that. Sad, are you using laptop while I'm speaking? Because I can see that a light on your face. What is this behavior?
No, no, I am listening में बस वो देख रहा था कि वो स्क्रीन चेंज कर रहा था.
Okay, okay, okay. So
हाँ,
great. Okay, now we are done in the fun segment. Okay, so how about you go first and ask me that question that I asked you not to disclose, and then I'll ask you.
So since we have known each other since school,
Yeah,
like for a very long time, so what
yeah.
is this one cringy habit that you had in O levels that you don't have anymore?
Oh, the most cringiest habit I've had. I think just studying throughout the night and throughout the day and taking that as an accomplishment that I was awake for 3 days. That was the most
Damn,
stupid and cringiest
damn,
thing. Yeah, I know. I did that for my accounts.
damn.
I know A levels, and there was a time when I was writing, and I was like, I don't even care. Like, just take it. I cannot fill it because I was awake for 3 days, and that for me was accomplishment. Now,
Yes.
alhamdulillah, everything is better, but yeah.
So my like I also remember staying up like days, and I just realized how much energy we had when we were
Yeah.
young. We
Right
can't do
now,
it
I
now.
can't.
Can't do
Okay,
it
I
now. No, we
cannot, bro.
can't
I
do it.
cannot, bro. Yes,
I
yes,
can't
yes,
do
yes,
it.
yes, yes.
Yeah. But
Okay.
when you were a child, you like it was very easy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no. Okay. What's for me? What's one thing you would say to that was 11, 12, 14 years old, who was more reserved and who would just think a lot before maybe talking to people and stuff like that? What would you advise?
Um, I'd say that you're good enough and just let go of shame of not showing yourself to the other person. Be your silly self. People will not judge you like your parents were. People will like you even more.
Mm.
Yeah.
Just being yourself. Yeah. I think that's good enough. That's good. That's good. So that brings in drum roll. Like I'm not going to add, I'm just doing the gesture. That's it. Thank you, Saad, for being here. I think I'm now going to go into
Um,
hibernation because we have been talking for like 2 to 3 hours. But that's okay. It was good having you. Okay.
yeah, it was fun.
Bye. Yeah, it was
Bye bye.